2, 3, and
He didn't drink, smoke, or do anything else. But food is a killer too.
Early memory that relates to hip hop for me would probably have to be krs-one kicking PM Dawn off the stage, if anybody can remember that.
They were soft in a genre that didn't know what to do with softness, emotional in a space that rewarded aggression. PM Dawn wasn't trying to play by hip-hop's rules. They were rewriting them, but the game doesn't like being flipped. They got clowned, shut out, and one night in New York, they got physically thrown off their own stage. This is the story of a group that dared to be different and paid for it. The backlash, the breakdowns, the beef with krs-one, the health battles, the quiet legacy Prince B left behind. It's a lot. And after this, you won't hear their music the same way again.
a careless whisper from a careless man. A neutron dance for a neutron.
Prince B was feeling bold during an interview and decided to stir the pot. He casually dismissed some of the biggest names in rap like they were background noise. Public Enemy, overhyped, krs-one, acting like he's running a classroom nobody asked for, NWA, basically doing nothing, according to him. That kind of talk doesn't just float by, especially not when it's aimed at someone like krs-one, who took his message seriously and wasn't exactly known for ignoring shade. So one night in New York, PM Dawn hit the stage at the Sound Factory. It was meant to be just another performance. Supercat was also on the bill. The crowd was into it. Things were going fine. Then krs-one pulled up with his crew, Willie D, ICU, the whole squad. And just like that, the energy flipped. Nobody was expecting it. PM Dawn thought they were running the show, but krs-one came with a message of his own, and it wasn't subtle. Kid Capri was there when it all popped off, and he still couldn't believe what he saw. krs-one rolled in with a crew nobody recognized and took a seat right by the stage like he was waiting for his cue. PM Dawn came out with Prince B, DJ Minute Mix, and a trio of backup singers, ready to do their thing. The first track slid by with no issues. But once their big song dropped, game over.
Finds a lady with a fat diamond ring. Then you know I can't remember a damn thing.
KRS stormed the stage and straight up snatched the mic from Prince B. Willie D landed a punch that sent Prince B flying. ICU rounded up the singers and cleared them out. DJ Kenny Parker booted Minute Mix from the booth and blasted South Bronx. The crowd exploded. People lost it. The whole floor felt like it was about to crack open. KRS left the stage like he just owned the place. And the wildest part? Most of the crowd followed him right out the door. Supercat ended up performing for a bunch of empty space.
Early memory that relates to hip hop for me would probably have to be krs-one kicking PM Dawn off the stage, if anybody can remember that.
That Sound Factory chaos wasn't some one-off moment. It was part of a bigger thing. Hip-hop's always had this love-hate relationship with the stage. On one hand, it's where dreams come alive.
That was a historical moment, you know what I mean? krs-one wasn't having none of that crazy whack rap. He just straight booted them off the stage, and then he went in and started doing this.
On the other, it's a battlefield, always has been. Like when Suge Knight grabbed the mic at the Source Awards and threw a not-so-subtle jab at Puffy. Right in his backyard, no name needed, everybody knew who that shot was for. That dig about producers dancing in their own videos, the room felt it.
Any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
Fast forward a few years and a totally different scene, but same energy. Kanye interrupted Taylor Swift's big moment at the VMAs. No entourage, no fists, just straight up mic snatching. One sentence and boom, the whole night flipped. That win, that speech, didn't even matter anymore. Suddenly it was about Beyoncé, not Taylor. Even Drake got in on the action. When he was beefing with Meek Mill, he didn't just drop a diss and dip, he turned it into a show. Performed back-to-back live with memes clowning Meek projected behind him like a digital roast session. It was petty, it was calculated, and the crowd ate it up. After everything went down, krs-one admitted he got carried away. But by then, the whole thing had already blown up. Headlines, debates, think pieces. It wasn't just about one artist checking another. It cracked open a bigger question that had been bubbling under the surface. What was hip-hop supposed to be? KRS had always stood on the front lines, repping hard-hitting bars, politics, and the old school code. PM Dawn came from a different lane entirely. Dreamy, emotional, hard to pin down. They weren't yelling truth to power, they were floating somewhere else, singing half the time, rapping the rest. And suddenly, people were forced to pick sides. Could the genre stretch wide enough to hold both? Not long after, Boogie Down Productions dropped a new project sticking to their guns. PM Dawn, even with all the drama hanging over them, were still pulling numbers. But that Sound Factory moment? It stuck. No matter how many charts they topped or songs they dropped, that night followed them around like a shadow. Because this wasn't just another clash. It was two worlds crashing into each other, one chasing tradition, the other pushing boundaries. One all about message, the other all about emotion. And it all spiraled from one offhand comment in a magazine. That was the spark, and the fire it started never really died.
He didn't drink, smoke, or do anything else. But food is a killer too.
In the early 2000s, Prince B found out he had diabetes, and from that point on, things got heavy. It wasn't one of those conditions you could just manage and keep it moving. It chipped away at him slowly. His health started slipping, piece by piece. He had multiple strokes, and the worst one left half of his body paralyzed. Later, he lost part of his leg. Eventually, he had to move into nursing care. It was rough, and it didn't let up. But somehow, even with all that going on, he still showed up. Just months after one of his worst strokes, he got on national TV, clearly struggling, but still there, still performing. He sat on stage next to DJ Minute Mix and gave the crowd Set Adrift on Memory Bliss, then flipped it and did a cover of Puddle of Mud's Blurry. And it wasn't just for the cameras or some forced throwback moment. He meant it. That performance wasn't about proving he still had it. It was about holding on. PM Dawn ended up winning the night and gave the prize money to a diabetes foundation. It wasn't just generosity, it was him fighting back the only way he knew how. Even when the illness was dragging him down, he turned it into something bigger than himself. He couldn't walk the way he used to, couldn't move the way he used to, but he was still showing heart, still showing up. Not long after that TV moment, DJ Minute Mix dipped. No drama, no big scene, just said things weren't clicking anymore, and moved on. In his place, Prince B brought in his cousin, Gregory, who went by Doc G, to help keep the name alive. Eventually, Doc G teamed up with a producer called KROK, and they kept performing as PM Dawn, even though diehard fans of the original duo weren't exactly thrilled about it. But no matter who was on stage, you could still feel Prince B. Even when he wasn't around, his energy hung in the background, soft, weighty, impossible to ignore. When he passed, he was just 46. The diabetes that had been creeping up on him for years finally won. Kidney failure. It was one of those losses that didn't just sting. It said a lot about a much bigger issue. In Black communities especially, diabetes is way too common, way too overlooked, and way too deadly. It's the kind of illness that doesn't show up all at once. It chips away slowly. First your energy, then parts of your body, then organs. And for someone like Prince B, who lived in his head and turned all that emotion into music, that kind of slow shutdown hit differently. His mind stayed sharp, creative, wild, but his body just couldn't keep up. Still, even after all of it, his influence didn't just fade into the background. Artists like Kanye, T-Pain, and Outkast openly gave him credit. That dreamy, emotional genre-mixing style, that was him, way before it had a name, before cloud rap, before it was cool to be weird. PM Dawn made it okay to lean into feelings, to be soft in a genre that usually leaned the other way. Doc G once said they brought the weird. Now everybody's doing it. Prince B cracked open a lane that didn't really exist before. He proved you could sing and still be taken seriously. You could talk about heartbreak and wonder without yelling, even when his health stripped him of the things most artists rely on. Mobility, stamina, freedom, none of that touched the core of what he gave the world. His body quit, but the music, that stayed.
Finds a lady with a fat diamond ring, then you know I can't remember a damn thing.
PM Dawn dropped their first single in the US, and it landed with nothing, barely a blip. The track came and went like most new acts trying to break through without the right machine behind them. But while America shrugged, the UK leaned in. Over in London, G Street Records got their hands on the song, gave it a facelift, and started pushing it hard. Suddenly, the same track that flopped stateside had critics buzzing overseas. Labels started circling, smelling potential. G Street flew the group out to London to get started on their debut album, thinking they were about to level up. But mid-recording, everything crashed. G Street was going broke. No big meltdown, no last hurrah. Just that slow, creeping fall that happens when a label runs out of money. And with it went PM Dawn's momentum. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was contracts, money, and figuring out if the whole thing was about to collapse. Then came the plot twist. G Street sold everything off, including PM Dawn's deal, to Island Records. Just like that, new label, new game. Most acts would have gotten lost in the shuffle. A label going under mid-album usually spells the end, not the beginning. But somehow, Island kept things moving. They dropped a few more singles, then finally rolled out the full album. The fact that their debut even saw the light of day was wild. Most artists don't survive stuff like that. One label folds, and suddenly, your project's dead in the water. But this was just the start of PM Dawn's chaotic little saga. It proved something early. Talent was one thing, but staying in the game took way more than just good songs.